This version of the video is actually a YouTube approved version. For the original with the copywritten music, you could check the link in the description below to see the bands in which I'm referring to. Enjoy the show. Here's a fun fact most of you probably don't know about me. Part of my heritage actually stems from Ireland. I've always found a deeper connection to Ireland when I hear music that reminds or resonates with me with Irish heritage. It feels like a deeper inner connection that I can't really explain. And today's topic is kind of in that vein. I felt with St. Patrick's Day either coming up or over, depending on when you watch this, I decided to put a list together of 5 bands who are intertwined with Ireland and yet have been able to break through the mainstream in some way or another, who I absolutely love. And no, the band U2 is not going to be on this list because I hate those guys. Here are my 5 favorite Irish bands. Number 5, the Dubliners. This is a perfect example of folk Irish roots. It hits the concept of old school Irish folk, but in a modern audience style. I mean, obviously the Dubliners have the longest range of music. I mean, they started in 1962 and only ended in 2012, then reunited for one show in 2020. They influenced so many bands that are probably going to be on this list later. You can listen to the Dubliners and literally the first thought in your head is, oh, Ireland. And you know it. It has the perfect balance of Irish folk. They're considered one of the greatest Irish bands for a reason. Their style, their heart in which they sing and perform songs that are so just Irish. There's no more of an Irish band than this. But it may not be for everyone. Number 4, Bewitched. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of street credit taken away from me, but honestly, in the early 90s, the concept of boy bands and girl bands were so prevalent, but Bewitched somehow stood out to me. Something about their style and their just rhythm of simplicity, but blending into a more modern mainstream appeal. It really is a shame that they never branched out as big as, say, bands like Spice Girls or Backstreet Boys or NSYNC. But if you re-listen to a lot of their stuff, the beats, the rhythms, the dancing, the music just blends so well. I remember as a little kid, really digging their sound and just enjoying their music and re-listening to it. Yeah, I still kind of dig it. And the concept of twins in a band at the time kind of confused but interested me at the same time. When you hear Bewitched sing together, it really does sound like they're almost a family. And that's something a lot of boy bands and girl bands could never pull off at the time. Even though Edel and Kiwi are actually twin sisters, Lizzy and Sinead still sound like they're a part of their family as well. And you get that vibe of sisterhood when you hear them sing. And they even have little snippets in their most famous song, C'est la vie. They kind of talk about their dad, and it's such an Irish little thing to add a little twinge like that, where they talk about they fight like their dad, or things like that. The one thing that they had above a lot of boy bands or girl bands at the time is they had a lot of personality. Which, when you had a market at the time where everyone seemed so manufactured, personality stands out a lot. Number 3, Thin Lizzy. Probably the most overlooked band at the time as far as just their impact on rock and metal. Thin Lizzy just had this really simple, beautiful riff style of playing that just resonates. People play their songs still to this day. You have definitely heard the song Boys Are Back in Town in pretty much hundreds and hundreds of movie trailers. And there's a reason, because even though that song is overplayed, it is a real banger. Just the simple guitar riffs alone are freaking amazing. But then you take a song like Whiskey in the Jar, which is a pure Irish ballad, and turn it into an almost lament of a man who's angry at the world. They also broke boundaries because they were headlined by a black man, and not just a black man, a black Irish man. The vocals of the original singer Scott Gorham, the wailing guitar playing of Scott Gorman are just so damn good. It's so hard to explain unless you hear it yourself. Number 2, Flogging Molly. I love Flogging Molly to death. I have seen them in concert, I think, more than any other band. And there's a reason for that. Because even though they play a lot of the same songs, every show is different. They somehow are able to get everyone in the arena just so into their music. Between mosh pitting, jumping, dancing, and doing slow dancing, everything. They have a beautiful blend, from Within a Mile of Home to Float. There's very few bands I've actually been like so invested in every single song that came off of their albums. And Flogging Molly is a perfect example of that. Dave King has the most Irish beauty in his voice, where you hear the pain of Ireland, but the purity of it as well. And how many bands can you honestly think of that are punk bands playing spoons, drums, percussions, mandolins, violins, accordion, and it fits perfectly for their style of music? Every other sound you could think of to think of folk, but they play it in a punk style, and then they go right back to folk, and then right back to ballads, and then right back to hard hitting. No other band I've seen can beautifully transition that well and still sound amazing every single time. If you've never listened to Flogging Molly and you really want to kind of get into Irish style music of folk, Flogging Molly is the perfect way to go. They have just this beautiful blend of punk, but pop, but folk, all at once that just meshes so well, like a crafted meal that you can't not enjoy. And my number one favorite Irish band is the Cranberries. Not only do the Cranberries remind me of the fact that I am Irish, but they remind me of my youth. There were countless movies in the 90s, early 2000s, and shows to this day are still used in backgrounds of songs. When you just hear the opening riff of Linger, you know. When you hear the soft doo-doo-doos of Ode to My Family. When you hear the words in your head, you think of Zombie. Blending their own pain and beauty and sadness in a way that just beautifully orchestrates a deeper connection that we all kind of share between musicians, our personal relationships, our personal interests. Very few bands are able to capture the purity of life's experiences like the Cranberries really did. And no one has been able to sing like Dolores O'Riordan. Her folkish beauty in her voice is so unique that no one has been able to replicate her voice. She has a twang of Ireland, a hint of folk, a beauty, a sadness, a way about her singing that cannot be replicated. I've heard people try to do Cranberries covers that have never been able to hit the capture of the beauty of Dolores' singing. It's also that sadness that reminds me that we'll never get to hear new music from the Cranberries because Dolores is no longer here. But even though she's no longer here, her music is. And I think she passed on so much beauty from Ireland that it transcended music as we know it. When you hear Dolores sing, you know it's Irish. When you hear all of these bands, you hear the Irish culture intertwining within it. It's what makes us unique, is our differences in our heritage. And I'm glad that I'm Irish, and I'm glad that other people have their own shared heritages that they can share to others. And with that, I hope you pour yourself a glass. I hope you have, or had, a happy St. Patrick's Day. Till next time.